goodie bag, and we'll get it all to you in time for the big day. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Well, let's get you all fired up for The Late Show live stateside with the one and only Bev Turner. And Bev, you are very fired up tonight, and or revved up might be a better turn of phrase, given one of the topics that you're leading with this evening, about pay-per-mile cars.
That's right, Bev is revved tonight, Patrick. I'm absolutely furious about this. This is classic Labour government. They're going to punish you even if you've bought an electric car, when that was the thing they told you to do. So you were all very obedient, bought your electric cars. Well, guess what? You are going to be the first ones charged with pay per mile. I think it's outrageous. So let's get on with the show, shall we, Patrick? And I'll talk tomorrow. So this is GB News. Up next, it is The Late Show live with me, Bev Turner, in Washington, D.C. On The Late Show live tonight.
How's this?
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. Let's not worry that they've closed all the post offices, the schools, the pharmacies, the doctors, everything in my area, because I can always drive to the nearest...
That Top Gear clip has proven to be very prophetic. Well, Labour came for your diesel cars, they came for your petrol cars, and now they're coming for your electric cars. That's right, also just in.
And what day, Mike? Because it's always something. It is always some secret or some story or some lie. It's
I don't understand.
I don't understand what.
You don't understand what I have been through. You don't understand what I have lost.
It's actually the one thing she's very good at. Meghan is going back to acting. She's been seen on a set in Hollywood, but you won't believe who she's playing. We're going to give you all the details. In other royal news, we're going to head to Brazil, where Prince William has been joined by showbiz royalty Kylie Minogue and Shawn Mendes. There for us is royal correspondent Cameron Walker.
Yes, Bev, I'm live with all the glitz and glamour of the green carpets, and guess who I got an interview with? It wasn't Shawn Mendes, it wasn't Kylie Minogue, it wasn't even Prince William. It was the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Yes, really. More details shortly.
Last night, we made history. I'm so proud to be standing here today as the mayor-elect of the greatest city in the world.
Talking of mayors, a disappointing 24 hours for Donald Trump. He's now got to take on socialist New York mayor. This is set to be the first proper test for the president. Of course, he has responded.
Very dangerous statement for him to make, actually. And, you know, you talk about danger. I think it's a very dangerous statement for him to make.
So that's a new interview with Donald Trump, which has just landed. We'll bring you all the best bits, but back in the UK tonight.
The Telegraph are reporting that a police manhunt has been launched for a second asylum seeker mistakenly freed from prison.
First there was one, now there are two prisoners who've accidentally been released. Two major manhunts are underway in the UK. It's quite unbelievable. We're going to be diving headfirst into the stories from tomorrow's newspapers, of course, before they hit the shelves. We are live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories that America is talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this. Radio, that is Donald Trump dancing at the America Business Forum today. You think he might be disappointed after the disaster of the mayoral election yesterday, but apparently not. I wonder why. This is The Late Show Live. And I'm delighted to say that Ben Leo made it back from his little trip to Florida, where, Ben, you encountered a potential bomb threat on the way back on your flight.
Yes, drama. Talk about Disneyland and Universal. The real drama was on the plane coming back from Orlando to DC. Luckily not our plane, but basically, long story short, actually I'm not going to spoil the surprise, I'll tell you later on. Long story short, there was a bomb threat on a plane in Washington DC, which meant we couldn't land. So we were kicked off the plane in Orlando, then brought back on. And finally, Bev, I'm back in DC.
And you've been talking to the absolute crazies in Washington today because there was an anti-Trump protest, and I'm dying to see the clips a little bit later. You're going to stick around, aren't you, Ben?
Yeah.
Right, OK, we are going to look tonight into what has turned out to be Jeremy Clarkson's crystal ball.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. Let's not worry that they've closed all the post offices, the schools, the pharmacies, the doctors, everything in my area, because I can always drive to the nearest town. No, I can't, Ben.
I'll tell you what this is. I'll tell you what this is. This is from Chapter 1 in Left-Wing Dictatorship Handbook.
Oh, God.
No, listen, it is. Stalin, OK? First thing he did, limit movement. Second thing, ID cards. Know what I'm saying? Third thing is curfews.
It's literally quite spooky. That was from 2008, but how spot on were the Top Gear hosts? Because Labour have already announced they're bringing in digital ID, and tonight the Telegraph is reporting that Chancellor Rachel Reeves plans to bring in a new pay-per-mile tax for electric vehicles in the budget. You couldn't make it up. Now, remember in 2001, when Gordon Brown said dash for diesel. So lots of us rushed out to buy those cars, only years later to be told how dirty they were, and ultra-low emission zones came in, and they were slapped with a daily tax in the capital. Then in July, Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander said this.
You would like all of us to buy more electric cars.
I would.
And at the moment, only 20% or so of new cars sold in this country are electric. They are expensive. They can be a bit of a hassle. If you live in a flat or you don't have a driveway, if you're not lucky enough to have a big, long driveway, it's not easy to plug your car in. So how are you going to get people to shell out the cash?
So there is some good news. In June of this year, 1 in 4 cars that was sold in the UK was an electric vehicle, and that over this year that has gone up 35% on the previous year. So we're moving in the right direction, but we do need to make it easier and cheaper for people to buy an electric vehicle.
How's that going then? Well, let's talk now to former motoring journalist Danny Kelly. Danny, thank you so much for joining me on this story. We got you last minute because it's tomorrow's papers, this, so it's what everyone's going to be talking about tomorrow. So the government have decided to come after electric car drivers first on pay per mile. Are you surprised?
Well, as Mel Stride said, Bev, you know, if you own something valuable, Labour are going to want a slice of it, and we're seeing that. And the encapsulation, the embodiment of Labour policy was just before my introduction with Heidi Alexander, who said, look, we want more people behind the wheels of electric cars, and in order to do that, we've got to incentivise them and incentivise them financially. So we're going to hear at the end of November with the autumn budget, we're going to hear a potential 3 pence per mile purely for electric car drivers, purely for electric car drivers. Now, the reason that the Labour government are doing this, and you're right, nearly a quarter of a century, by the way, Bev, quarter of a century, Gordon Brown incentivise people financially to get out of petrol and go into diesel. I'm a used car dealer as well as being a motoring journalist, and people are still talking about Gordon Brown incentivising them to get into diesel cars. And it's not just London where you've got to pay to drive. You've got to pay to drive in Birmingham. You've got to pay to drive in Bristol if you're a pre-2015 diesel car. So electric car drivers, they are going to feel rightly rattled by this. They will feel that they have been punished for, in their eyes, doing the right thing. Most electric car sales, Bev, new car sales, generally speaking, we all know people who own electric car vehicles, but generally speaking, they're company car drivers because they get a massive tax break. And also a lot of motability cars are actually electric cars because car manufacturers and retailers are incentivizing electric cars to get on the road because of, again, government punitive costs. If you don't hit a target for electric cars, you're fined up to £12,000 or £13,000 every car you miss that target. So it is such mixed messaging, Bev. You are right to be annoyed and angry about this because once again, you have an administration telling you one thing. Heidi Alexander, probably 2 weeks ago, telling us to drive electric cars. And here we are anticipating GB News, breaking the news, anticipating a 3 pence per mile levy. I mean, you don't know where you stand as a motorist.
It's also, Danny, it's because they're getting less tax on fuel because people have done as they've been told, good citizens have followed what the government wanted them to do in the border. So the revenue is coming down from the fuel tax.
Yeah.
Fair enough, I get that. Well, surely they knew that was going to happen. Surely that would have been the point. There would have been one of the consequences of this. But they're now saying it opens the door and raises the questions about the wholesale adoption of pay per mile taxation for all cars. So as is the way with all of these authoritarian moves from this government, and actually governments all around the world, Labour are not exclusive in this, is that it will start with the electric car driver and then it will be all of us. So what do the electric car drivers, do you think, what should they do to stop this? Because I think they've gone after the electric car drivers because they are probably the virtuous ones, because they are the ones who want to do good maybe, and they sleep well at night knowing they're saving the planet. Maybe they are the crowd that they know will just accept it, whereas people driving around in a massive 4-litre diesel engine might have told them to sling their hook anyway if they tried it with them.
Yeah. Bev, my understanding is that the way that they're going to collect the tax is like a self-assessment. So if you're self-employed, you have to self-assess. You have to tell the government how much you've earned, and also you have to project forwards how much you think you're going to earn. And I think that's going to be what it's like. So to answer your question, I don't see what an electric car driver can do. I don't think there's any protest that one can make. Like when I do my PAYE, my accountant sorts my books out. I mean, like most people, I'd rather pay less tax, but I pay what I have to pay. Electric car vehicle owners are going to be the same. There's no way around it. And I'll tell you what, Bev, technology, it's so straightforward. So let's just say you buy an electric car, point A, it's done 10,000 miles. 12 months later, it's done 15,000 miles. All you've got to do, Bev, you've got to take a photograph with your smartphone, and you've got to put it with your self-assessment for your car. And they are going to work out that 3 pence per mile, 5,000 miles is 150 quid. It's impossible, really, to avoid.
I hate it, and it will start with 3 pence per mile, Danny, because everyone thinks, oh, well, that's not too bad, and it will be more and more and more. And effectively what they're doing is the government are moving us onto a subscription service with our own vehicles, and I despise it. And the ultimate, if we use our imaginations here, the ultimate next step is that people just won't even bother owning a car. They'll just think, I'm not taking it on, and I will just rent a car when I want them, some sort of smart car system maybe, 2030, you'll own nothing and you will be happy. Is that where it will go, or will the motorist always find a way to get behind the wheel?
But in big cities like London and Birmingham, where I'm talking to you from tonight, where there is alternatives to a car, then I agree with you. People will say, OK, sod this. I am going to think of an alternative because I don't want Big Brother and everything. But also there are areas around the country. I mean, GB News, the biggest news station in the United Kingdom, there are viewers in rural areas, not just cosmopolitan big city areas, Bev, where it's a necessity to buy and drive a car. So being a used car dealer as well as a motoring journalist, I sell cars to people out of necessity. It's not out of want. It's not out of desire. It's out of the fact that they need a car, because public transport is rubbish. They need a car to take the kids to school, and there is no alternative to that. They need a car to go, in my case, to see my beloved 92-year-old father down the road. There is no alternative. I can't just jump on a bus outside and get to the old man. So I think there are areas and there are alternatives in big city locations, but maybe not for 85% of the country.
OK, Danny, great to see you. Perfect sense as usual. Danny Kelly there. Lovely to see you. I think it was Jordan Peterson who said the car is a radical symbol of freedom and privacy. And what do this government not like? Freedom and privacy. Let me know your thoughts. gbnews.com/you'll say. So it's been a great 24 hours for Donald Trump. It's not been a great 24 hours for Donald Trump. Here you go.
So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Proud socialist Zoran Mamdani won the race to become mayor of President Trump's beloved hometown, New York City. If you don't know him, this is a man who wants to open government-run supermarkets. He wants public buses to be free. He wants to almost double the minimum wage, and he wants to drastically hike up corporation tax to 11.5%. I mean, in the UK, we'd quite like 11.5%. Now, these sound wonderful in an ideal world, but some might say economically illiterate, including former London mayoral candidate for the Conservative Party, Susan Hall.
Well, I just feel really sorry that New York have decided to do this, because it's almost like they're sleepwalking into a disaster, and a disaster it will be. I mean, some of the things he's promised are just hopeless. Rent freezing, for one thing. Sadiq Khan would love to do that. It doesn't work. That doesn't work. It's been proven in other countries. It doesn't work. To defund the police, have you ever heard of anything more ridiculous? Free bus fares, free this, free everything else. Well, we all know nothing is free. Somebody has to pay for things.
So that is Susan Hall, of course, the leader of the Conservatives at the London Assembly, knows what it's like to sit next to a man, Sadiq Khan in our case, who has very similar views to Mamdani. Mamdani also has questioned whether the murder of Lee Rigby in the UK was terrorism. He stuck a middle finger up to the statue of the explorer of the United States, Christopher Columbus, saying, take it down, in a protest against colonialism. And he posed for a picture with one of the key architects of 9/11. Well, the US president has hit back in typical fashion.
Soon, Zorhan Mamdani, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zorhan Mamdani?
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation.
And in the last few minutes, a new President Trump interview has just dropped, and he said this.
A dangerous statement for him to make, actually. And, you know, you talk about danger. I think it's a very dangerous statement for him to make. He has to be a little bit respectful of Washington, because if he's not, he doesn't have a chance of succeeding. And I want to make him succeed. I want to make the city succeed. I don't want to make him succeed.
It's going to be so interesting to watch this relationship now between President Trump and Zoran Mamdani. In Washington today, protesters gathered to rally against President Trump. Ben was there, Ben Leo, and he's now in the studio with me. What was it like, Ben? Were there lots of people there?
It was 11 a.m. on a weekday, on a sunny day in Washington, so you would have thought it'd be quite quiet, but apparently nobody works in Washington on weekdays, so yeah, that was interesting. It was okay. It was full of the typical kind of, I was going to say golden oldies, but that's maybe slightly offensive, but the typical kind of ageing crowd who maybe have retired, nothing else better to do, and yeah.
So those hippies, they're like, oh, they're aging hippies, aren't they?
Exactly.
That's not offensive.
And do you know what? They mean well. They believe they're doing well, but they go around banding terms such as fascist, Nazi, Hitler, and so on. And we'll talk about it after. I mean, I spoke to some of the locals there, so we can watch a clip in a second. But they use all this flagrant language about Nazis and Hitler and so on. And you can have your criticism of Donald Trump. There's lots I criticise Trump for, believe it or not, despite viewers last week calling me a Trump sycophant.
Yeah.
You know, the vaccines, Operation Warp Speed, and so on and so on. But when you use that kind of language, as we've seen with Charlie Kirk and so on, I think it goes a step too far. Anyway, this is what the locals told me today. 11 a.m, Washington, D.C. Let's take a look. So you don't think it's a democratic country now?
No.
But there was elections last night where the Democrats won, so how is that not democratic?
Well, it's a different way of looking at things. They actually... I'm not going to get into this because this is ridiculous.
Guys, Ben Leo from GB News in London. How you doing? You okay? This is obviously a Stop Fascism event. I mean, what is the definition of fascism?
So, it sounds like you're pretty right-wing, bro. I mean, I'm just saying, because if you don't know fascism, what this guy is doing, right, I mean, the fact that you even question...
This is interesting. What is this here? President Trump as a Nazi?
Just make your interpretation. I'm not going to say a word.
Why are you here today?
I want to drive out the Trump fascist regime.
What's the definition of fascism?
Fascism is a different kind of rule. No rule of law, brutal dictatorship, built on lies.
Isn't it a single party state, is it? At the protest, there's people using the opportunity, using the day to make some money. We've got some anti-establishment or anti-Trump paraphernalia here. RFK Jr., no. In America, we don't do kings. Lots of flags, trans flags as well. So how much is a trans flag?
The small ones are $10.
$10 for a trans flag. I'll save my money than your friends here.
You don't know who they are if they don't. They could be Trump supporters or setting you up. Leave them
so we're the UK's #1 news channel. You're here at a protest. I'm just saying, what's your biggest beef with Trump? I mean, many people.
There's so many, I don't know where to start.
Must have one.
No, they're all equally horrendous.
Came here from England, enjoying it because it was a democratic country and gave us a lot of opportunities.
So you don't think it's a democratic country now?
No.
But there was elections last night where the Democrats won, so how is that not democratic?
Well, it's a different way of looking at things. They actually... I'm not going to get into this because this is ridiculous.
The use of the term fascist,
listen,
fascism, is maybe, some would argue it's slightly over-egging it.
There's nothing wrong with calling a Nazi a Nazi. If it walks like a Nazi, talks like a Nazi, acts like a Nazi,
Trump's a Nazi.
it's a Nazi. Yeah, and remember, boys and girls, the only good Nazi is a dead Nazi. That's a message from your local Antifa field commander. You guys have a good one.
Ooh.
We just went through a young gentleman here having a fight with somebody. We don't want to fight people here.
Who's fighting?
About being with us
seeing how fearful we are of what's going on.
No, I get it.
No, you don't get it because you're a white man in this world, and whatever you do, nothing will happen to you.
What's my skin colour got to do with it?
Come on now. You don't know history? You don't know history? U.S. citizens that look like me are getting arrested just because they don't look like you.
Right,
they want this.
Are they
this
being
is
kicked
white
out?
supremacy. They see that their race is dying, and they want to stop abortion.
So whose race
so their
is-
white
whose race
women
is
can
dying?
have children again
Whose
because
race
they
is dying?
see brown people growing, and you know it.
You sound like a pretty racist
Your
person.
people created that.
Who's my people?
You're white.
I'm
race.
a human being, man.
No, you're not.
Oh, there we go.
You know what, Ben? I never fail to be amazed whenever you go out on these protests, or other journalists. They won't engage.
No.
And I think it's because their arguments just fall apart as soon as you ask them any probing question, like give me an example of why he's a fascist or why he's a Nazi. That was outrageous. The hashtag Be Kind crowd.
I mean, there's so many different parts to pick apart from that. So the guy, the veteran, the black guy with all the medals, he was a US military veteran, which is quite interesting because my stereotype view was that most of the military, probably on the whole, right wing, but he was vehemently anti-Trump. But I think the FBI will be keen to watch that clip tonight. He was saying Trump was a Nazi, and the only good Nazi is a dead Nazi, which is for me that's a death threat.
Yeah.
So Kash Patel maybe heads up on that. But like you said, the elderly ladies who were from England initially, they came to the US in 1975. They said Barack Obama was their favourite ever president. And I said, okay, well, what's your #1 bit of beef with President Trump? And they said, I'm not getting into this. They never have an answer, which is bizarre.
Feelings, not facts, isn't it? That's what's so frustrating. We're going to be talking to a journalist who lives in New York, actually later in the show, who has dug down into who some of these people are that go on these anti-Trump protests, and he is so fascinating, Nate. And Ben, tell me about your little lovely trip that you had with your boys. You went to Disney World.
Did you miss me?
I missed you. Disneyland, Disney World. I know.
I think it's Disney World, isn't it?
Disney World.
I wasn't that keen on Disney World.
And then
went to Universal.
Okay, and then you, on the way back, you couldn't take off on the plane. We showed a little bit of the footage yesterday.
Yes, it's so jumped on the plane at Orlando, was due to come back to Washington DC, family left home today, and yeah, we were about to take off in Orlando, and the captain came on the tannoy and said, sorry, we are going to be stuck here for at least an hour, so we're stuck on the tarmac. There was a bomb threat at Washington Reagan Airport, International Airport. A United Airlines flight had a massive bomb threat. It was stuck on the tarmac. Anyway, this is the moment I dialed into Martin Daubney's show, live on GB News, in my baseball cap from the plane. Take a look.
Going to happen, but
Catherine, I need to interrupt because we've got some breaking news. There's been a United Airlines airplane grounded in America by GB News presenter Ben Leo, who is stuck on the tarmac in Florida. Ben, what's going on?
I think we're being kicked off. Not sure if the signal is very good, but we're just being kicked off now on the flight. So Bev Turner may have to go solo tonight on the Late Show Live. But yeah, the breaking news, Martin, is there's a serious bomb threat against the United Airlines flight at Washington Reagan International Airport. I'm on the tarmac at Orlando, been stuck here for an hour. Hopefully we're getting kicked off soon. But yeah, developing story in Washington.
But you got here safely, Ben.
I'm here. Not a bad little commute, actually, Washington to Orlando. I think I might have to leave you solo in DC and move to the sunny climes of Florida.
Just go for the weekend. You work at the weekend.
4th of November, the sun is shining, it's blazing, beautiful.
Lovely. 18 degrees it was in Washington today. We don't want to depress you at home. And Lynn at home says, good evening, Ben. You did look cute in your baseball cap.
Well, I just said to you off air, I look better in the baseball cap on the plane than I do now, so there we go.
Right, get in touch this evening, gbnews.com/your say. Still to come tonight on The Late Show Live.
After his release, I put in place the toughest checks we've ever had in the prison system.
Famous last words. David Lammy insists he's put in place the toughest checks ever after the wrongful release of a convicted sex offender. But with a second migrant prisoner now on the loose, just how watertight are his measures? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I am Bev Turner. Thank you for joining me. So, a foreign prisoner convicted of flashing in a London park and possession of a knife is on the run tonight after being wrongly released from HMP Wandsworth. The 24-year-old Algerian national Brahim Kaddour Sharif is still on the run. Shockingly, Surrey police also revealed that 35-year-old William or Billy Smith, convicted of fraud, was also mistakenly released just this Monday. Now, both of these cases come after that very high-profile incident in which migrant sex offender Hadush Kabatu was mistakenly released from HMP Chelmsford last week. So why has there been such an uptick in mistaken prison releases? Who's to blame? The Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, who filled in for Keir Starmer at Prime Minister's Questions today, dodged the question when asked whether he knew that a second asylum seeker had been mistakenly freed from prison.
Can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? It's a very specific question for him to answer.
I put in place the toughest checks we've ever had in the prison system.
Can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison?
Get a grip, man. I know I'm the Justice Secretary. That's why I'm at the dispatch box, also as Deputy Prime Minister. We know that.
So that ducking and diving has now got many people wondering whether this reaches the bar of misleading the Commons and breaching the ministerial code. So let's get the take of international security and border control expert Henry Bolton. Good evening, Henry. So 3 high-profile cases now of prisoners being accidentally released. With the first one, I was tempted to think, well, this is just one person's administration error. With the second one, again, you might think, all right, someone's maybe not ticked the right box on a form. But 3, Henry, starts to speak of a more systemic problem, does it not?
Bev, it's not just 3, sadly. In the 12 months leading up to March this year, 262 prisoners have been released mistakenly from British prisons. So it's not just 3. We're obviously hearing about some high-profile ones recently, but the problem is that there is a systemic problem within the publicly run prison service for a whole raft of reasons. But at HMP, His Majesty's Prison Wandsworth, where these 2 latest prisoners were released mistakenly, wrongly, there are 2 sort of, if you like, monitoring and reporting bodies. There's something called the Independent Monitoring Board, a statutory board of volunteers who monitor the sort of the way that prisons are run, and there's His Majesty's Inspector of Prisons. Both have reported that Wandsworth, on average, is only able to, or has a 30% absentee rate amongst the staff. So the prison staff. So it's understaffed. They're inadequately trained. They're inadequately resourced. And bottom line, Bev, is that for a very, very long time now, and this does go back to the previous Conservative government, there has been a failure to invest in the prison estate and the prison service. And this present government is no good David Lammy pointing to the Conservative government, because this government has had over a year now, well over a year, to get to grips with what is a very serious problem and what has been raised to them by His Majesty's Inspector of Prisons as a crisis situation, and they have done just about nothing. So, you know, and the bottom line is, Bev, as we all know, these people are put in prison not because, you know, somebody fancies just sticking some people in prison, but because there are victims out there. There are victims that these individuals have in some way harmed, either physically, mentally, or financially, or in some other way. They are a danger and a risk to the public. That's why they're supposed to be in prison. So these mistakes aren't administrative, they are a risk to public safety.
And it's quite a high bar now, Henry, is it not, to go to prison? So as you say, these aren't necessarily petty criminals escaping and being let out. What will they be doing now, just briefly, in order to try and find these guys on the run? Where do they start?
Well, it's a little bit difficult. With Kabatu, there was a sort of follow-up immediately, and therefore it's easier to track movements and so on. But they'll be monitoring CCTV, facial recognition. I mean, we are, in that sense, lucky in the United Kingdom, although some people don't like it, that we've got extensive CCTV coverage. These people, their movements will have been identified, their contacts, their networks, if you like, their support networks will have been identified in the police investigations leading up to their charging and prosecution and sentencing. So there will be a lot of intelligence available about these individuals anyway. So the police will be following all of those various leads. There will be phones of people who associates of these people that will be monitored and so on. But you know, the police are not in this case to be blamed for this. This is not a police problem. We should. I mean, there are a legion of problems for the police within the police as well. But, you know, this is a prison service problem, so it is Ministry of Justice. It is David Lammy who's responsible.
OK, Henry, thank you so much. Henry Bolton, their security expert. Let's bring in my guest for this evening, Chairman of Republicans Overseas, UK Greg Swenson, and Washington correspondent for the Daily Telegraph here, Connor Stringer. Gentlemen, so nice to see you both. Connor, let me start with you. When you hear a story like that about prisons and how many people have been let out mistakenly, who do you blame?
Well, it just beggars belief, doesn't it? I mean, it doesn't seem this long ago that we're sitting here having the same conversation about Hadush Kabatu and the child sex offender who was allowed to go free on the streets. I mean, I'm a believer in patterns, Bev. I think your viewers are too. I mean, once a mistake, 3 times I was always told is not just bad luck, but there's a pattern to that, isn't there? And we need to have a look at deeper at the prison system. I just find it really inconceivable that, you know, one person can make a mistake and release a child sex offender, but to have it happen 3 times in the space of a week, there's clearly a systematic problem here. It may lie in the prison service, as your guest suggested, and you know, I think it goes beyond that. We need a review, some kind of explanation as to why this is happening.
Briefly, Greg, does the same thing happen here in America, do you think?
It does. I mean, look at the UK as 2021 in the US. So things are getting better, but we had early release programs, you had soft on crime prosecutors, you know, this no cash bail, all these social experiments which completely failed. And so you layer this disaster on top of early release and very soft judges, and you're going to have more crime.
Right, still to come this evening on The Late Show Live. Prince William is in Brazil. He's hosted a star-studded Earthshot prize. We are going to be down on the green carpet any minute now with Cameron Walker, only on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Prince William has joined celebrities and world leaders, including Sir Keir Starmer, on a green carpet at this year's Earthshot Prize Awards in Brazil. Cameron, I think, joins us now live from Rio. I think the green carpet behind you is now cleared, Cameron, but who did you see? How was it? Who did you talk to?
Oh, it was such a fabulous night, Bev. It really was the Oscars, I think, of in Prince William's mind, anyway, about the environmental prize. But to be honest, Bev, it was for celebrities who were on this carpet, which I think made it such a standout. There was queues of fans outside to see not only Kylie Minogue, not only the Prince of Wales, but also Canadian singer Shawn Mendes. Of course, Kylie and Shawn, both from the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth that Prince William will one day lead, perhaps as future king, of course. So it really was the glitz and the glamour. But then guess who turned up? We had the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. We had the Environment Secretary, Ed Miliband, and we also had the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, all of which have been invited by Prince William to come here and see the kind of leadership, perhaps, that William has been portraying over the last 24 hours ago. And what I mean by that is William made a very big point today of talking about he doesn't want all of this climate stuff to be doom and gloom scaremongering. He wants it to be optimistic and showing the British people and showing the world that we don't need to be pessimistic about this stuff and we can come up with these solutions, and it's going to make not only the world a better place in Prince William's view, but also potentially can grow great British businesses such as Matter, which is a tiny little business in Bristol, which has now won a major deal with IKEA even, making lots of money and really giving them a boost. So that's kind of convening power perhaps that Prince William has. We tried to, let's say, what we call doorstep in the industry, Sadiq Khan. So we did shout a question at him. It was quite a PR'd answer before he was hurried along, but this little snippet of what he said about Prince William's Earthshot Prize.
Oh, I don't think we've got that clip. I was desperate to see that, Cameron, unfortunately. There might be something to do with the time difference between Rio and via London and getting to DC, unfortunately. We haven't got it. But can you tell me, what did he say?
Well, to be honest, Bev, he was talking about it was very important to be here to kind of support Prince William and kind of champion environmental solutions, as you can probably imagine. Of course, he was going to do that. The Prime Minister didn't want to do any interviews. He was shoved along. We did manage to talk to Kylie Minogue, though, of the British press, not me in particular, but all of us started shouting questions at her. We asked if she'd like Prince William to come to Australia, and she said she'd love Prince William to come to Australia with the Earthshot Prize. We've heard that hinted, actually. I've heard the Princess of Wales actually say on an engagement that she wants to take the children to Australia as well. So I think that would be a particularly interesting time if Prince William took his Earthshot Prize there.
And I think, Cameron Walker, that was you pitching for another trip, this time to Australia on behalf of GB News, and we would love to see you there. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Enjoy the rest of your night, Cameron. It's great to see you. Right, moving on to another royal story, because Meghan Markle is making a shock return to acting. I have to say, I think this is a shock, actually. In a huge film with two actresses called Lily Collins and Brie Larson. Do you know who they are, gentlemen? Greg does. Do you know who they are?
I'd be lying if I did.
We don't know. But this is 8 years after Meghan Markle quit Hollywood, of course. She's been on set today in LA in the Amazon MGM Studios production about two couples, one famous and the other not. But Kinsey Schofield, please tell me, who is Meghan Markle playing?
Oh, well, in classic Sarah Ferguson form, Meghan Markle is there to play herself. But I just want to tell you, this is the perfect example of nepotism, right? Because it's Lily Collins, who is Phil Collins' daughter, the pop star, and Jack Quaid, who's also in the film, who's Meg Ryan and Dennis Quaid's son. And then there's Meghan Markle, who's only there because of the man that she married. So, you know, nepotism on full display here in Hollywood. I know you expect nothing less. But, it just drives me crazy that tonight, when Prince William is having this epic event in Rio celebrating Earthshot, that's when Meghan's team decides to leak that she's a movie star now.
You read my mind. I was going to ask you, I wasn't sure if I just reached peak cynicism, because I was going to say to you, is it a coincidence that the front page of the Sun newspaper tomorrow has a massive picture of Meghan Markle? She's managed to get Prince William off the front of that newspaper. That's not a coincidence, is it, Kinsey?
Well, no, and let me tell you why else the timing feels convenient. Earlier today, Page 6 ran a piece titled How Hollywood has soured on Harry and Meghan. And the article quoted a source saying there's no appetite left for the Sussexes in Los Angeles. Another source said people are sick of them. The act has gotten stale. But my favorite line is they're just hopeless in professional settings. Of course, a source told The Sun that Meghan claims she's been flooded with offers. But this is Meghan's way of gently putting her toe back in the water and seeing how she enjoys being back on set. So I don't know how much you believe of that, but let's just pretend that Meghan has been flooded with offers and this was the one.
where she plays herself. Like she just manages to redefine narcissism every time she goes out on the public stage in some sort of way, doesn't she? And also, but just briefly, Kinsey, I have to say, I think the one thing that she's good at is acting. She was really good in Suits. If she'd only just carried on getting married and being an actress, she probably would have stayed quite happy and not driven the rest of the world completely mad.
Well, and she's probably going to make a lot more money being on camera than she would selling slimy jam or $64 candles that, you know, are going to bankrupt her audience. So I feel like that's really good career advice from you. She should take it.
Yeah, I think so too. The wonderful Kinsey Schofield there in Hollywood. Thank you so much for joining us on The Late Show Live. Right, still to come this evening, we'll be taking a deep dive in tomorrow's front pages, hot off the press. And Connor Stringer from The Telegraph, this is your newspaper that we're looking at. And I am furious about pay per mile tax. Guess what? War on the motorist continues. See you in just a minute.
Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I am Bev Turner, and we're going to show you now, I think, a picture of the largest and brightest moon of the year. There you go. It looks very much like a moon, and it's called the Beaver Supermoon this year. The supermoon is bigger and brighter due to the fact that it's the closest full moon to Earth. Oh, Do you like that, gentlemen?
Look at that.
I think we should have a moment. It feels like a bit meditative, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
The Beaver Supermoon. I don't know why they've called it Beaver.
I don't know why have they called it Beaver.
Don't know. You were the journalist. Come on,
Yeah,
start
I should
Googling
know
that,
that.
Connor. We should find out. But yeah, it looks like a moon.
A beaver.
Yeah.
Right, let's look at the papers now. Let's look. The front page of the Telegraph are leading with this really shouldn't be shocking, this story, because some of us have been saying this is coming for 5 years. Pay per mile tax to hit drivers in budget. What I didn't know is that it was going to be electric cars first. The Guardian are leading on Lammy under pressure after 2 more prisoners mistakenly freed, and a massive picture there. Of course, it's The Guardian. They're delighted of Zoran for New York City with his wife as well. We're going to be talking about her in a minute as well. The Metro are leading on Lammy, grilled over latest jail bungle. He didn't do very well in PMQs today. The Sun, we've just mentioned this, I'm Meghan a movie. Meghan Markle stealing the front page of The Sun from what might have been Prince William's today with the Earthshot Prize. The Washington Post are saying that American orders 10% cut in flights at several airports as this government shutdown drags on, because air traffic controllers are part of the employment workforce that is not being paid at the moment. So I think some of them are staying off work. The New York Times, Trump blames the shutdown for the Republican losses on Election Day. We will talk about this as well this evening. This is about the fact that the Republicans got beaten in 2 states, Maryland and...
Well, Virginia.
What was the other one? Virginia.
Jersey.
Virginia and New Jersey, that's right. So Virginia is Maryland, right? No,
it's
next door to each other. Yeah. Okay, I've not been here very long. I'm still working out the geography.
We'll get the map out.
And the New York Times is saying that Trump basically blames the shutdown for Republican losses on Election Day. Let's bring in Steve and Alan from London alongside my panel to go through some of these stories. Steve, great to see you this evening. Where would you like to start, Steve? You've had a little longer looking at these front pages than we have this evening. Where do you want to start?
We could talk the Daily Telegraph going with its paper mile thing, because I know it makes you so angry, and I kind of agree with you, because this is the kind of thing where we were told you really want to buy yourself an electric car, because if you do, you can charge it on the electric. You don't have to pay all of that fuel duty that the petrol heads are having to pay, and then the government obviously miss out on some of that fuel duty and think, I know, let's find another way of charging the people who have electric cars. Paying 3 pence per mile will be really annoying, because you have to drive more miles to go and find a place to charge the thing, because it's not as available as petrol. But the idea that you have to sum up and predict how much you're going to pay over the next year just goes to show how much this country is starved for cash, because you're going to have to prepay your tax. Ridiculous. And if you slightly underestimate, you'll have to pay up when you've worked out how much it is. If you overestimate, you get credit. So it's like your gas bills. If you overestimate, if you underpay, then you'll have to pay it straight away. If you overpay, they just keep your money for a while. Oh, great. Where's my interest on that?
It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. Greg, let me come to you, because Steve's there saying, you know, this is about revenue. And I think to some extent it is, because we've got a greedy government that doesn't know how to balance the books. But it's also about control, Greg. It's about the fact that various governments around the world, and God knows why these idiots have bought into it, they don't want us to travel. They want us to stay at home, stay in our lane, quite literally stay in your lane. We'll still fly around the world on private jets, but we want you minions at home, just like you were in lockdown. Don't go anywhere. Is that what's going on, Greg?
Yeah, it's big government gone wild. They'll tax anything that moves. And look, I feel bad for the electric car drivers who got head faked by the government because they were incented to buy electrics and could avoid this tax. But there shouldn't be any schemes. There should be no taxes. But if carbon drivers are paying even higher taxes, then I think ultimately EV drivers should too, in spite of the head fake.
Connor, just very briefly, why would this be on the front page of the paper? Why is it so important?
I mean, the hypocrisy is ridiculous, isn't it? Kyr's talking about a climate summit today. Here we are taxing electric drivers. Can't get any worse than that, can it?
Yeah, right. We're going to talk about this again in just a minute, and we're going to get the reaction from YouTube journalist Nate Friedman on the New York Mayor. Don't go anywhere.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. It's going to be another very mild day for the time of year. A drier day for many, particularly across western areas, and possibly even a few glimmers of sunshine. It's still fairly cloudy start out there, though. Much of that cloud will lift as the day goes on, but the sunshine and the cloud will come and go through the day, as will the rain too. There's a risk of showers across eastern areas first thing this morning, and then into this afternoon, a few showers possibly across parts of Wales, southwestern England, and moving into southern areas of Scotland too. But wherever you are, it's going to be another very mild day. We've still got those southerly winds, and in any sunshine we could reach 17 or 18 degrees. Into this evening then, it's still looking relatively dry for most of us. Quite a pleasant day to come for northern areas of Scotland, and it will stay relatively fine into this evening as well. Looking further west though, the cloud will roll in once again with a few showers around across western areas of Scotland, northwestern England as well, but Northern Ireland looking relatively dry. Further south across parts of the Midlands, a clear evening, but there is a risk of a few showers as we head into tonight, and the cloud's going to continue to come and go, but wherever you are, still staying very mild overnight tonight with those southerly winds dragging in plenty of mild air as well as the cloud. A few showers here and there. They should move through pretty quickly though if you do get caught with a shower on Thursday evening, and a relatively mild start to the day, a degree or so lower than this morning, but still pretty mild for the time of year. And it's going to be quite a fine day across eastern areas in particular on Friday once that cloud lifts through the morning. Still a few sunny spells across eastern areas of England, northern areas of Scotland as well, but looking further south and west, we've got the next batch of rain moving in. This could turn fairly heavy at times, as well as bringing some gustier winds and temperatures much closer to average in the low teens. Have a great day. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're going to have reaction from New York to the election of Mamdani as socialist Muslim mayor, and also the BBC in trouble this time for their cover-up about transgender issues. On The Late Show Live tonight.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. Let's not worry that they've closed all the post offices, the schools, the pharmacies, the doctors, everything in my area, because I can always drive to the nearest town. No, I can't.
That clip from Top Gear has proven to be very prophetic, because tonight, Labour are coming for you if you're driving an electric car. Also, Justin.
What day, Mike? Because it's always something. It is always some secret or some story or some lie. It's
I don't understand.
I don't understand
you
what.
You don't understand what I have been through. You don't understand what I have lost.
You don't understand what I have lost, says the character out of Suits. It could well have been Prince Harry, of course, but Meghan is back. She's going to be back on set. She's been acting today in Hollywood, playing herself, of course. Also tonight, in other royal news, we're going to head to Brazil, where Prince William has been joined by showbiz royalty, including Kylie Minogue and Shawn Mendes, and Cameron Walker is there.
Yes, Bev, I'm here with all the glitz and the glam of the green carpet, and I'm going to tell you why the Prime Minister, Ed Miliband, and Sadiq Khan have been learning a thing or two about Prince William's leadership. Stay tuned.
Last night, we made history. I'm so proud to be standing here today as the mayor-elect of the greatest city in the world.
That's the new mayor of New York City. It's been a very difficult 24 hours for Donald Trump. He's got to deal with that man there, socialist Mamdani. This is set to be the first proper test for the president, and of course he responded.
Very dangerous statement for him to make, actually. And, you know, you talk about danger. I think it's a very dangerous statement for him to make.
A new interview with Donald Trump has also just dropped this evening. We're going to bring you all the best bits back in the UK. This.
The Telegraph are reporting that a police manhunt has been launched for a second asylum seeker mistakenly freed from prison.
First there was one, now there are two prisoners apparently released due to human error. Two major manhunts are underway. We're live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories that America is talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this. That's right, that was Donald Trump earlier today at an American Business Forum, just styling it out, even though they had a very disappointing day yesterday. So it has been a difficult 24 hours for the American president.
So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Well, that's rather peaceful, isn't it? Turn the volume up, he said. That was socialist Zoran Mamdani, who won the race to become the mayor of President Trump's beloved New York City. So this is a man who has questioned whether the murder of British soldier Lee Rigby was terrorism. He stuck a middle finger up to a statue of a great figure here in the US, Christopher Columbus, saying take it down and a stand against what he sees as colonialism, and posed for a picture with one of the architects of 9/11. Moments ago, a new Donald Trump interview was released, and he said this.
You call the mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani a communist, but is there any part of you that looks at Mamdani and says, it is good for you politically to have a big foil there that you're going to talk about for the next 3 years?
You know, I'm so torn because I would like to see the new mayor do well because I love New York. I really love New York. When I left New York for Washington, New York was doing really well, but there were some bad signs. The bad sign was a guy named de Blasio. So the signs of de Blasio, that was the beginning, and it was bad. This one, we're going to, look, for 1,000 years, communism has not worked. Communism or the concept of communism has not worked. I tend to doubt it's going to work this time.
Did you see his victory speech?
No, it's literally never worked. Yeah, I thought it was a very angry speech, certainly angry toward me, and I think he should be very nice to me. You know, I'm the one that sort of has to approve a lot of things coming to him, so he's off to a bad start.
So let's talk to Greg Swenson here in the studio and Connor Stringer from the Daily Telegraph. Greg, what do you make of Trump's reaction today to that?
I think it was a pretty credible reaction. I mean, he's going to have a foil, as was pointed out, but it's also, you know, a way to contrast what works, what doesn't. The Trump policies versus what could be really difficult Mamdani policies. And President Trump is right. His speech was very angry. Yeah. He quoted Eugene Debs, for God's sake. You know,
who's that?
He was a socialist candidate for president 5 times in the 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s. He was arrested and jailed for protesting against the World War I, which was against the law at that time. They had suspended a lot of the typical constitutional rights during wartime. And so, you know, he was a radical in his time, and now you have another radical as mayor of New York. I also am glad that the president pointed out Bill de Blasio. So it's not like this is the first socialist radical that we've had running the biggest city in America. And look, in London, even during the Tory government, we had Sadiq Khan, who you could argue is almost as bad.
Yeah. Connor, just tell our British audience at home who may not be familiar with Zoran Mamdani, I mean, Greg has touched upon it there, why is he so controversial? And also, what's so shocking, why did he get 97% of the votes?
Well, it's
97% of the votes. He got more votes than the other 2 candidates put together.
And it must be noticed as well, with the biggest historic turnout in New York.
Yeah.
History is relatively, and mightily impressive. Well, first of all, his policies are extremely, well, Trump calls them communist, but there's an element of populist in that. Free buses, very much appealing to what the big key issue in America at the moment is cost of living, and driving prices down, offering lots of free things with not a lot of explanation as to how he's going to make them free, which is kind of a little bit of the theme of his campaign. Greg makes a very, very great point about his election winning speech, and for this whole campaign they've been very, very good at using social media. They've been fantastic in the way they've kind of campaigned and used online platforms to appeal to the youth and the wider audience in a way that probably has never been done before, actually, outside of Trump's presidential election. It's paid off with his big, beautiful smile. But then for the first time, when he's winner, he's mayor-elect, whatever, he's stood up, and I think the mask has slipped a little bit. Yeah. And we've seen that real, raw, communist-esque, populist-esque passion that we kind of all suspected and we probably warned about.
And that idea when he said turn the volume up, right? What we keep hearing from the left is turn the volume down. We keep hearing Democrats coming out and saying, we've got to tone down the rhetoric.
Right. Yeah,
like, everybody's just start being nice to each other. And this guy wins. Yeah. And basically throws down the gauntlet to Donald Trump and goes, right, let's have a massive row. What idiot.
And he's calling for the fight against the man, as the communists always say, the Marxists always say. And, you know, look, 1% of New Yorkers pay 40% of the taxes. It's going to be a mass exodus of wealth out of New York. He's going to have bigger problems to pay for all his, government-owned grocery stores and free transportation. This is a disaster.
Just explain that as well, because for British viewers, they will go, well, hang on, he's only the mayor. He doesn't set the tax like in the UK. I mean, but of course here you have your federal tax and state tax.
Yeah, so there's city tax, there's state tax, and then there's the federal tax. And by the way, you bring up a good point, Bev. the governor of New York can stop some of the crazy tax schemes, but she can't stop the spending schemes. So how do you pay for that, especially with capital flight? And so this is going to be a big challenge for him. And it's, you know, he's already angry against the very people that, you know, create jobs and create wealth in the city. And those kids who voted for him, they have not learned about socialism and communism because they haven't been taught properly in schools.
Yeah, and they don't know what they've just voted for, do they? Well, somebody that hopefully they've watched our next guest, and then they might have an idea of what they might be getting into. It's YouTube journalist, brilliant investigative journalist, Nate Friedman, and I'd urge you all to find Nate on social media. And Nate, I was going through X or Twitter this morning when I saw your content, and what you do so beautifully is just put a microphone in front of people who are protesting against Donald Trump, and you don't criticize them, you don't attack them, you just let them show for yourself who they are. And what have you found when you've been talking to a lot of these anti-Trump protesters, the kind of people who would love Mamdani?
Yeah, no, I found that they view socialism favorably. You know, they're against capitalism, and Mamdani's a surrogate for communism. And a lot of these guys are not paid, but the ones that come and stop them from being interviewed are paid, and I've proved it in a lot of my videos. And that's just what I see out there, yeah.
Yeah, let's have a quick look at you in action, Nate. We've got a clip here to show the audience in the UK. Here he is.
For Mamdani.
Okay, can you tell us why?
I'm just looking for someone new and not part of the established Democratic Party.
Sure.
Who also hasn't been accused of sexual assault.
Yeah. I know there's like, I spoke to the other side a little bit, and they're concerned about like the government-run grocery stores and the free buses. What's your response to that?
I think government in the U.S. is great in the sense that there's always balance, right? Like no one person is making all the decisions, and so I think there'll be balance within.
So you speak to people like that, Nate, young people who maybe have, as Greg just said, like haven't been taught about politics, they don't really know what they're getting into. And then you also talk to, I've seen you interview quite a lot of more kind of elderly ladies, the sort of the do-gooders, the purple-haired brigade. And what do you think motivates those women to be supporting Mamdani?
Yeah, it's funny. I spoke to an older couple that loved the way that young people were so motivated for Mamdani, and they felt that energy and thus pushed them to want to go and vote for Mamdani. They felt like socialism deserves another try, even though the track record hasn't been great.
It's extraordinary. If you just stay with us, I want to bring my panel in as well here, guys. Connor, I'm trying to think where we sit in relation to where America is now in 2025, because there is a sort of radical but actually rather uninformed ideology of a hard left. Hashtag be kind, but I'm not going to discuss it with you. I am just right. A sort of moral superiority which has arisen from somewhere. Where has that come from, Connor? It will be the death of humanity, in my opinion.
I think it's the death of all of us in some ways. Look, there's an element of kind of the political cycle that seems to always go around in this, you know, in this element. We start kind of centrist, we end up a bit left, Labour government. You can see the electorate becoming a little bit more centre-right and right-wing as people get fed up. And I think you're right. A large part of it is because people are relatively uninformed. They don't understand the politics, and they hear things, buzzwords like free, you know, lowering costs, free rent, you know, stabilised rent, frozen rent, and they think, oh bloody hell, this is brilliant. Let's vote for this. This is amazing. Why has no one said this before? Well, the reason why nobody said it before is because it's unbelievably difficult to actually do. They don't understand. You know, they understand the money and the capabilities and the possibilities behind it to make that happen. And these often are just fancy policies that are aimed at bringing in a massive electoral, which Mamdani has done incredibly well. Let's not, you know, take away from that. And it's difficult to do.
Nate, what do you think will, I mean, you know, get out your crystal ball. You know that city very well in New York. You know the people there. How do you think it's going to turn out in the next couple of years for New York? Because first of all, no doubt there'll be a honeymoon period of free buses and free childcare. Everyone's going to be delighted. And then what?
Well, I think that a lot of his policies are going to be difficult to implement, but I will say that, taxing 2% in addition to the 50% that millionaires are already paying, it's going to likely push them out of the city, and they're paying already, the top 1% is already paying 40% of the tax in New York. And when you bring up these concerns on the street to people who voted for Mamdani, they do acknowledge that they would prefer a city without the millionaires. So we'll just have to wait and see.
We've got a proper lefty can join us now. The head of Democrats Abroad UK, Vice Chair, George King joins us now. George, you are the voice we need in this debate, because I think there's rather a lot of agreement going on here. So we like all voices and all opinions here on GB News. So your reaction to Mamdani is going to crush the city, isn't it? It's going to be bankrupt in about 2 years.
Bev, I'm afraid that's probably unlikely. And yes, it's good to get another voice on here, having heard the conversation so far between Nate and Greg and so forth. Look, first of all, let's break this down. There's two separate questions here. One is what New York needs, and there's a separate question, how does it get paid for? I haven't heard anybody on your panel yet say that New York doesn't need to address the out-of-control cost issues for people who live there and work there. And that's what these policies are meant to do. So I'd love to have someone say, oh, no, these runaway costs are fine, that's not a problem. I challenge anyone to start with that. So if we agree that these need to be addressed, then we're having a policy argument about how to start to do that. I've heard forever wealthy people say that if you add tax, they'll all run away. But that's not what the evidence shows when you actually look at the history, especially such a small increase in tax. The reality is anyone living in that city wants to live in a functioning city. They want to live in a safe city. They want to live in a clean city. They want to live in a city that works, whether you are poor, whether you are wealthy. And the wealthy people have a vested stake in that city working well, and having workers that can afford to live in that city and clean their lavish apartments and all the rest of that stuff. The idea that a small increase in tax to pay for these programs is going to cause massive flight of millionaires is both unlikely and not what the history has shown when you look around the world at this type of thing.
Greg Swenson is probably perfectly poised to answer that question.
Yeah, George, I think you bring up a good point that he appealed to the cost of living problems. And I think that's what the Republicans did in last year's election. And that was the two big issues were, illegal migration and cost of living or inflation. And I think the difference is how do we address that? And I think lowering taxes to create more economic growth, job creation, and real wage growth is a much better idea than taxing people more. And I do believe that people do vote with their feet. I'm not suggesting every rich person's going to leave New York. That's never going to happen. New York is a dynamic city. However, 3 million people have left New York and New Jersey in the last 5 years. Last year, $40 billion of taxable revenue left California. So we do know that policies do have effect. That's why hundreds of, we lost 200,000 in Chicago, which is only a population of 1.6 million. So this is a disaster for blue states and a very optimistic opportunity for red states.
George?
Greg, I think the problem with these types of discussions is that we take issues that have multiple variables and are complex and nuanced, and we try and bring them down as if it's a single variable issue. People leaving aren't leaving for that one issue. There are tons of problems with lots of cities. The reasons that people come and go have nothing to do with a single issue. When we try and frame it like that, we do a disservice to people to understand these issues and to pretend that we're actually advancing a thoughtful debate about how to solve the real problems in a place like New York.
George, I agree with you because COVID and the lockdowns had a big effect on New York, New Jersey, and the other blue states, and Illinois and California included. So I'm not suggesting it's 100% tax policy, but it's the overall policy of these cities that are wrecking blue cities and wrecking blue states.
Nate, I can see you nodding along a little bit there about maybe that's a little bit too simplistic, is it, on your assessment of the conversation so far?
No, I think it's a good point. I think that taxes by itself is not always what happens to push people out. But what I've heard on the street is that they're worried about safety. The big thing is about safety. So if sending social workers to, a drug addicted person who's stabbing people on a train, if that's going to be the solution, then people are going to feel less safe. If we're not condemning the phrase globalize the intifada, if we're not doing that, people are going to feel less safe, and thus then they'll leave the city.
I think so.
George?
This is exactly what we need to not do. So this Antifada thing and so forth. Let's stay with real issues, and let's stay with what's really happening on the ground. Let's leave the hyperbole aside for this, at least this one conversation, if we can.
Well, talking of hyperbole, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Mamdani's speech was triumphant, and he deserves that, absolutely. But it was also quite aggressive to Donald Trump. Were you impressed with that, or do you think he could have set a more dignified tone?
Well, you'll forgive me, but I always cringe and look over my shoulder in some kind of disbelief when I hear anyone who is massively supporting what Trump is saying and doing, talking about being more dignified or being more balanced or being more reserved. That this is exactly what's been destroyed in the rhetoric that we hear from Trump all the time. So to continue to have this double standard that Trump can say anything about anybody, denigrate people, call them all terrible people, constantly call the entire Democratic Party, constantly do this stuff every day, and then because he is triumphant and says, I'm willing to fight this, suddenly he's the guy making too much noise, that just always galls a little bit. But just to pick up on your earlier comment before I joined, his statement at the end about turn the volume up, that wasn't about, hey, let's have a fight. That was, hey, listen to what I'm going to say next. Because what came in the speech right after that was a series of specific comments to Trump about Trump policies, about what he's trying to do. He was saying, look, you're sitting on your couch, Trump. Maybe you got the volume off, but you don't want to hear what's going on. I want you to listen to this next piece. It wasn't, hey, I'm going to scream at you and pick a fight. That wasn't what was being said. And we need to stop mischaracterizing these things and try and really listen to each other.
I appreciate that correction, actually, George. Connor, though, I think it's interesting when George says we've got to start listening to each other, because the work of Nate, even just a cursory glance at his social media content, is that unfortunately so many people who are hard left, you might call them. I don't even like the left-right distinction anymore. I don't think it's valid in 2025. But those people who would support Mamdani, they don't even want to discuss it. And that is what is so frustrating. Like, it is a joy, George King, from Democrats abroad, to have you here, because we struggle to get Democrats or left-leaning people on this show. Ben Leo was out on outside the Washington Monument today trying to interview people at the anti-Trump protests, and they just say, we're not talking to you, we're not talking to you, and that is a big problem, Connor Stringer.
Absolutely, and that's why political victory speeches are important, right? That's their opportunities for when you win, you set aside your differences and you try and bring on the people who've doubted you, the people that have voted against you. There's people there who are on the fence who wonder, oh, actually, can I buy into Mamdani? Is this something I can kind of get behind? Political speeches, that victory speech, is the opportunity to bring your arm around everybody who is doubting you and say, look, we're in this together. I've won with a hell of a margin. Jump on this train and you'd be with you. But he didn't. He was aggressive. I actually think he was quite isolating to those people who didn't vote against him, and he went straight on the attack against Trump. George, this was far from inclusive. This was, if anything, I think the mask slipped for a moment.
Go on, George.
So I'll be really specific. If you actually listen to the speech, he said this, Abigail said this, every winner last night said this explicitly. You have elected me, and I am not here to just serve the people that voted for me, but everybody. He said it about New York, she said it about Virginia. Every winner last night went out of their way to be very clear that they were serving the entire constituency, not just the people that voted for them, which is not what we keep seeing from Trump, where I completely agree with what you're saying, but I wish you would practice what you preach first. So go to the top man and have him do that as an example, because that's what used to always happen before he changed the dialogue, and is what we're still trying to do. So I don't disagree with you, but show me what you're talking about, please. Practice it.
Okay, from the Democrats, George King, it's a joy to have you. I would love to have you back on again. I've given you the last word, you see. We do like all voices here. And Nate Friedman there, superb YouTuber. I urge you to follow Nate online. The work he does is absolutely brilliant. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. Right, still to come this evening. Remember, we've got no ads, but I'm just going to tell you what's coming up tonight on The Late Show Live. Prince William is in Brazil. He's hosted a star-studded Earthshot prize. Everybody that wants to bask in a bit of reflected glory about saving the planet, well, all the usual jokers were there. One person who was not a joker, Cameron Walker. We're going to go to him in just a minute. forgive my cynicism over this kind of love fest about saving the planet. Prince William was there. He's joined celebrities and world leaders. Keir Starmer was there, of course he was. Sadiq Khan was there, of course he was. Ed Miliband was there, of course he was. They're on a green carpet at the Earthshot Prize Awards in Brazil. Luckily, my cynicism can be offset by the brilliantly positive Cameron Walker, who is live in Rio. Cameron, why was tonight so important?
Oh, well, Bev, for me, it was the glam of the green carpet, actually, which probably isn't what Prince William's message wanted to be. But of course, he does have that convening power, doesn't he? Where he can get these major celebrities like Kylie Minogue, like Shawn Mendes, who has 70 million Instagram followers on the internet, here to perform for his Earthshot Prize, the 5th annual Earthshot Prize. For William, it's all about the optimism instead of the negativity. And I think him championing a great British business like Mata, for example, who was one of the finalists this year, who's just won this big contract with IKEA, boosting the local economy in Bristol, is something that wouldn't have really happened without Prince William's convening power with the Earthshot Prize. So that is what some people perhaps would praise Prince William for. But I think it was very interesting, Bev, that we had Labour Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, Labour Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, and Labour Environment Minister here on the green carpet and watching Prince William in action, and almost kind of like I saw it as learning from his leadership style. And what I mean by that is not talking down the country, not talking down the world really, and not being too pessimistic, which arguably sometimes the Labour government is criticised for. This is what Prince William said, not in response to anything the Labour government has said, I hasten to add, but just him talking in general about leadership and about being the positive message that he's trying to get across, and why.
It's not all negative. And for my children particularly, knowing that the planet's going to be in a healthier, better state because of the brilliant people in this room is something that I love to tell them, you know, when they go to bed. It's like, it's going to be great. Your future is going to be as bright as futures gone by.
And I think perhaps that kind of shows in the opinion polls, because Prince William has a favourability rating almost 3 times as high as Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. But tomorrow, both of them are heading to Belém, which is an island, sorry, not an island, a city even, by the Amazon rainforest, where the COP30 climate conference is happening. And that climate conference in itself, Bev, has got a lot of criticism because they've got rid of a load of Amazon trees to build a road to the city itself. So that's getting a lot of criticism. Oh. I'm sure that could potentially overshadow some of the proceedings tomorrow. But here on the green carpet, it was a fabulous evening. Kylie Minogue's medley of songs was so good. Please have a look on our social media channels for that a bit later on, because it was absolutely an amazing night for the award ceremony.
We will do. Cameron, great to see you having such a good time there, bringing your enthusiasm for the project. We appreciate it. Thank you, Cameron Walker there. Right, my panel are still here with me, Chairman of Republican Overseas UK, Greg Swenson, and Washington correspondent for the Daily Telegraph, Connor Stringer. Shall we look at a story? I think we're going to bring Steve from London as well. I think we've got Steve and Alan in London, and we always like to bring it. He's not quite there yet. Right, shall we talk, gentlemen, about this story on the front page of the Telegraph? Connor, BBC's transgender coverage censored by its own reporters. This is the dossier that keeps on giving. What's it telling us now?
Absolutely. So this is kind of the third part of a 3-part series of a dossier that the Telegraph has managed to obtain, which basically reports on the BBC's bias. And you would have seen several headlines this week, but this possibly one of the most extraordinary. But what it reveals is essentially that the BBC was producing one-sided pro-LGBT stories despite the concerns of its own reporters and those inside the corporation. It has its own LGBTQ desk, which I didn't know. I don't know if you knew it had its own LGBTQ desk.
I did not know.
Until this dossier, which essentially kind of provided a constant drip feed of one-sided stories celebrating the trans experience without adequate balance or objectivity. So we basically got to a point where the BBC were doing various stories at the behest of this LGBTQ desk without any kind of balance or impartiality, which, Bev, correct me if I'm wrong, is the whole point of our national broadcaster, should be extremely impartial, balanced, and adhere to the same journalistic standards that we all do.
And let's bring in Steve from London now, because I sort of just want to say, Steve and Alan, well, quelle surprise. Anyone who's been watching the BBC knows that when it comes to controversial issues like whether a boy can be a boy and then one day become a girl. The BBC will give one version of that, and woe betide anybody that would go on that channel and say that actually biology might matter, Steve.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's the lack of balance, the fact that if you only get one side of the story, eventually it looks like there's no story to be debated, no point to be discussed. I mean, at least this is a BBC investigation, but it's a leaked memo, so it's not like we would have been told it if it wasn't leaked, but at least the people in the BBC should know about this. And what I think is fascinating is this comes down to bias, doesn't it? If you have a bias, you don't see that you have a bias, so you don't see that that's what you're doing. But the BBC, this is the kicker for me, sends its staff on bias training. What's the point of that? To reinforce, I mean, maybe that's what you do, they reinforce the bias. In theory, they should be able to spot it, but they can't because they don't see it's a bias.
Yeah, it's remarkable, Greg, actually, and I mean, all credit to your paper, Connor String, all credit to Daily Telegraph and to Gordon Rayner, who has taken this report and gone through it with a fine-tooth comb, Greg, because as Steve said, otherwise people like us would be shouting into the abyss going, the BBC is not impartial, the BBC is giving us misinformation repeatedly. Thank goodness we're getting it.
And look, I think conservatives are getting used to the fact that many of the media players are biased. Okay, there's a liberal bias. I keep telling Republican candidates, get over that, right? Just assume that it's the case. But it's gone from bias to activism now. And I think that's what's really dangerous, is this was an activist moment. And coming on the heels of the report 2 or 3 days ago about President Trump and doctoring his speeches.
Exactly, and we saw that actually in one of the series stories we've done this week about the Hamas headlines, which Caroline Levitt had stood at the press briefing and of course had warned that the BBC were misrepresenting some of the stories coming out of Gaza and believing without any kind of reporting or impartiality the story that the Hamas were purporting, and that dossier lays very blatantly that the BBC were worried about. And of course, Greg, you mentioned the doctoring of clips to make it look like Donald Trump was saying things that he didn't say. I mean, in terms of professional standards, not to reveal the curtain of journalism too much, but that's just an absolute no-no. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing where you are literally kind of portraying an individual to say something that they didn't do, and in this case, incentivizing a riot.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if we've got time to just look at the photograph that's on the Daily Telegraph. I think we're going to bring you the weather in just a minute, but this phenomenal photo on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. Now, the title is "The Fall Guy." And if you look at this, first of all, I saw this picture and thought, oh, it's maybe, I don't know, it's obviously bonfire night tonight in the UK. Nobody really celebrates that because Halloween's taken over. But if you look at that picture on the front page of the picture and just look at the bottom left as we look at it, that is a person down there. That effigy that should be burned is absolutely enormous. And of course it is the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. He's going to be burnt on a bonfire, it's probably already been reduced to flames by now, or to ashes in Kent. Oh no, it's on Saturday. So if you still want to watch, you can probably get down there for Saturday. The public chose who to have burnt. And he was up against former Prince Andrew and Andrew Tate. It's 36 feet high, this figure, and the last person, or one of the people before him who was burnt to the ground, was Saddam Hussein. Wow. Steve, I mean, can he get any less popular? That is so damning for Keir Starmer.
You're right, it's not a good sign, is it? Although I do think it's a weird tradition that we have. Like, if we see other nations burning effigies, we'd think, well, what a backwards people. And yet every year, Edenbridge, Lewis, all over the place, they just set fire to someone who's not very popular at the moment. Think of the carbon, Bev. Think of the carbon.
Yeah, oh, I have to say, I love it, because one of my biggest issues about this time of the year is that bonfire night used to be a really big deal when you were little, and it's been taken over by the horror show, literally, that is Halloween, which, if you were watching last week, you'll know I hate it so much. Right, thank you, gentlemen. I think we're going to take a quick break now for the weather. Don't go anywhere.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. It's going to be another very mild day for the time of year. A drier day for many, particularly across western areas, and possibly even a few glimmers of sunshine. It's still fairly cloudy start out there, though. Much of that cloud will lift as the day goes on, but the sunshine and the cloud will come and go through the day, as will the rain too. There's a risk of showers across eastern areas first thing this morning, and then into this afternoon, a few showers possibly across parts of Wales, southwestern England, and moving into southern areas of Scotland too. But wherever you are, it's going to be another very mild day. We've still got those southerly winds, and in any sunshine we could reach 17 or 18 degrees. Into this evening then, it's still looking relatively dry for most of us. Quite a pleasant day to come for northern areas of Scotland, and it will stay relatively fine into this evening as well. Looking further west though, the cloud will roll in once again with a few showers around across western areas of Scotland, northwestern England as well, but Northern Ireland looking relatively dry. Further south across parts of the Midlands, a clear evening, but there is a risk of a few showers as we head into tonight, and the cloud's going to continue to come and go. But wherever you are, still staying very mild overnight tonight, with those southerly winds dragging in plenty of mild air as well as the cloud. A few showers here and there. They should move through pretty quickly though if you do get caught with a shower on Thursday evening. And a relatively mild start to the day, a degree or so lower than this morning, but still pretty mild for the time of year. And it's going to be quite a fine day across eastern areas in particular on Friday once that cloud lifts through the morning. Still a few sunny spells across eastern areas of England, northern areas of Scotland as well, but looking further south and west, we've got the next batch of rain moving in. This could turn fairly heavy at times, as well as bringing some gustier winds and temperatures much closer to average in the low teens. Have a great day. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome back to The Late Show live on GB News with me, Bev Turner. Right, we are going to have a quick look at the newspaper front pages, let you know what's going on in the world tomorrow. Daily Telegraph are running on this shocking story. Not shocking, entirely predictable. What's the difference between a conspiracy theory and fact? Well, normally 6 months, in this case 4 years. Some of us have been telling this was coming over the line. Paper mile tax to hit drivers in budget. Guardian are running on David Lammy being under pressure after these prisoners were mistakenly freed, and a big picture of Zoran Mamdani there, and academics telling of heavy pressure from China. The iPaper, again, talking on these manhunts which are currently going on for new missing prisoners. The Deputy Prime Minister feeling heat over those blunders, it says. I'm not sure he's feeling that much heat. He was pretty defiant today, blamed it on the Conservatives. The Sun newspaper leading with, I'm Meghan a movie, and this is Meghan Markle, if you're just tuning in. In fact, she's Meghan Sussex now, isn't she? She's at pains to tell us. She's going back to acting, and she's in a movie where she's playing herself, of course. The Daily Express are also talking about this shocking release of the Algerian sex attack convict, and there's a picture of Claudia Winkleman on the front page there, who is hosting this series called Traitors, and she's obviously left Strictly Come Dancing as well. The Daily Mirror are talking about our prisons in chaos. Not again, they say. Jail crisis is laid bare after 2 more prisoners have been freed in error. And the Daily Mail, police are warning of a Labour soft justice crime wave. And there's also a photograph there of Mamdani's wife. They're calling her the new Queen of New York, whose husband is Trump's worst nightmare, it's saying. And then pictures of a load of men, and apparently one of them is a cheater and the rest of them are monogamous. You've got to love the Daily Mail for those sorts of things. Now, the Washington Post are telling us that American orders 10% cut in flights at several airports as this shutdown drags on. This is, of course, there are various government departments which are just not running. And in this case, it's the air traffic controllers who are not being paid, and so they're going to more of a skeleton staff. The New York Times, this was quite funny. Donald Trump came out, and when he asked why he had the Republican losses yesterday, he said that it's because he wasn't on the ballot. Which, there's probably some truth to that. And I think what he's getting at, Greg, if we go to that, what he's getting at is this idea, well, people like me, but we lack maybe other candidates who would be standing, who would have the appeal of himself. But of course, it's one of those quotes which will be taken as being incredibly braggadocious.
Yeah, and there's a certain amount of ego there, but I honestly think that Republicans have a history of not voting in off-year elections. They don't even vote in the midterms as much as they do in a presidential election. So it's not just President Trump, it's when you have a Republican president on the ballot, you get much better turnout. And this is a real challenge for Republicans.
And as a graduate of Columbia,
Apologies, that's a volume which has just popped in. That was Nate Friedman. He was a YouTuber who came on the show earlier, and I was showing these guys some of his work that he's done. Right, let's bring Steve in from down the line in London. Let's get GB News contributor and comedian Steve Allen. Steve, what do you make of Donald Trump's assessment that the reason they didn't do well in these two state elections that were yesterday is because Donald Trump wasn't on the ballot?
Yeah, well, I think right is a motivating factor, isn't he? And I think he also realises he can play up to that stereotype of patting himself on his back and using the ego. It's part of the act, isn't it? It's part of the charm, I suppose, the comedy of it all. But it also really comes down to this cost of living. That's the thing. For all of the subjects that we can talk about the world of politics, what you feel when you spend some money will always be one of your biggest motivating factors. So if you can promise that things are going to get cheaper, then that's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you.
Absolutely. Let's see what else we can go to. What about looking at this jail crisis? We've touched on it earlier, but prisoners being freed in error. It's a depressing state of affairs. Steve, what are they making of this over in the UK?
Well, I suppose this is because we had that recent case in Chelmsford, and then the journalists and newspapers pay more attention to this. And it's good because we should know that we have a failing section of government. We've got a system where people are just filling the wrong forms, silly mistakes are happening, and then people are being released. Putting the David Lammy embarrassment inside Parliament to one side, it's worrying that people are being released erroneously. However, we got the stats. It was something like 260 released within the space of a year. So that's over 4 a week. So the fact that we've had a couple of weeks with only 3 making it on the front pages actually is probably quite good. But I'm not saying David Lammy should pat himself on the back for this, but he did say since the last one that he brought in the toughest guidelines ever. Well, that's not saying much, is it? Because clearly they weren't that tough before, 200 people over a year, and now, still, this problem keeps happening.
Yeah. Let's also look at, we got a viral clip, I think, of Erica Trump on Fox News. We don't have that clip actually at the moment, unfortunately. Do we have a clip of SpaceX launch? No, we don't have that. Okay, let's talk about this pay per mile story then as well, for people who might just be tuning in. This is Rachel Reeves. Going to hit drivers. If you're watching this and you've just come home and maybe you've had a long day at work, or maybe you're about to get in your car and go to work at nights in the UK, or you're here watching us in the US. If you've got an electric car in the UK particularly, this is terrible news, Greg. And this administration, this government in the UK, are hitting electric drivers first with pay per mile. It is one of the most pernicious things you can do to a human being in the UK, especially those who live in the countryside, is to add this extra layer of stress. You're going to have to pay per mile. Don't go and visit your family.
Yeah.
Don't go and visit your kids who might be in hospital. And every time you do, you're going to be thinking about how much money you've got to pay them. If I couldn't hate this government anymore, I've been pushed over the edge tonight, Greg.
Yeah, it's virtue signaling gone wild again from the decision makers in government, who all probably live in Islington, or they live at 10 and 11 Downing Street. They don't have to drive a car, and it's easy for them to say take public transportation and save the planet. Again, it's virtue signaling. It's also a really regressive tax. And that's really the shame about it. It's working people that are going to really be hurt by this. Yeah. Connor, the Telegraph have put it on the front page, and well done. Your newspaper's doing some sterling work at the moment, and thank goodness for it. Why has a decision been made, do you think, to put this on the front of the paper? What is it about your readers that will be incensed by this?
Well, I think like everybody else, our readers and your viewers can see that for years the government have been pushing people towards electric cars. They've given, encouraging and incentivizing people to go electric in order to save the environment. I mean, the reason why they're doing this, it must be remembered, is because they can't raise the revenue from usual fuel duty because so many people have gone to electric cars because we've all been told to. And now they've got no choice but to go and tax per mile. I mean, if you have bought, there's families out there, situations where people have literally packed in their diesels and everything else on the hopes of kind of getting a cheap run around with an electric car to do the job, and now they're going to end up paying a hell of a lot more.
And they, you know, I think the reason they've gone for the electric cars, Steve, is because they probably think electric car drivers are very obedient and they do as they're told and they try to please the government and they've got a social conscience and they will really struggle to argue against it. If they'd gone for people who drive like 4-litre gas guzzlers, they might have just told them to get lost.
Yeah, but that's only true for now. I mean, eventually, if they're right, everyone's going to be driving electric, well, then everyone will be an electric driver. But also, I feel sorry for electric drivers who bought the message. Oh, you're one of the good guys. Buy one of these things. You're the good guys. You're still a driver. And I'm fairly sure this nation is entirely funded by milking drivers. My prediction is one day we will wake up and everywhere will be a box junction just so they can get 100 quid off you unless you're turning right all the time. It's the only way any of this makes sense. But this won't be electric monitoring, they say. You'll have to do loads of paperwork where you predict your mileage. I think that also could make some people think, well, this is a paperwork admin nightmare. It'd be easier if they just put an electric thing in my car and the next thing, monitoring's brought in, but we asked for it.
It will be all under the auspices of convenience, Steve. And what I don't understand about these governments, and it's not just in the UK, you're seeing it across Europe all the time, this will affect their children and it will affect their grandchildren. Do they not understand that by tightening the leash, Greg, and putting everyone in this horrible digital cage where your whole life is a subscription service and you're living like an episode of Black Mirror, they won't escape it. Like Sadiq Khan's children will be affected by this. Do they just not care, or do they just stupid and lack imagination?
I think it's the former. I think this is just regulation, you know, frenzy. It's way too much regulation even before they did this. And again, I still think they're penalizing carbon car drivers more than they're penalizing electric car drivers. And again, they bought into the scheme, as Steve pointed out, and that's a shame. But they shouldn't have any of these levies on any drivers.
Yeah. Right, let's move on now to this story about Erica Kirk, ex-wife of, obviously sadly deceased, Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. She sat down with Fox News host Jesse Watters to talk about life after his death and her renewed focus on faith. Here we go.
Do you feel safe?
What are they going to threaten me with? Going to heaven sooner to be with my husband? And I don't say that to be reckless. I do not. I do not say that because I'm out in the streets like, here I am, come find me. And it's not at all. It's a fearlessness that's rooted in the understanding that I will have my day and my time, whenever that is. When the Lord knows that I've completed my mission. And I'm not afraid. Charlie wasn't afraid either. We never lived in fear. If we did, we wouldn't get anything done.
Connor Stringer, what are we watching there?
God, it's emotional, isn't it? It's really tough. What a strong woman. I mean, what we're watching is somebody who is carrying the weight of a nation in many respects, and the weight of Turning Point USA, the succession of her husband, and the expectation that somebody, and it looks like it's going to be Erica Kirk, is going to carry on his legacy. I mean, this is somebody who literally overnight has lost her husband, lost a father to her children, and is now facing the reality of carrying this for the foreseeable. And she's got incredible public and media pressure to do so. And I really, really think that interview actually was quite telling and an insight into where she is mentally at the moment. We've seen her collect various awards on behalf of Charlie and stand in front of various pulpits with the president and talk about how she feels. But this was the first real insight into actually how she's feeling so many weeks and months after her husband's death.
Excuse me, that's very rare to happen on TV. I think it's the air conditioning in here. I'm still not used to the air conditioning, Steve Allen, in America. They have it on 365 days a year. But the thing about Erica Kirk is, I just want the poor woman to just go home, be with her kids, cuddle your children, because I can't help but feel that all of this public talking is going to catch up on her at some point? Does she have enough people around her, do you think, Steve, to tell her, you know what, just go home and get under the quilt for a few days?
I see your point. I mean, I see clips like that. I see these interviews, and it's impressive to see that strength of character and that spirit. But I agree with you in that we shouldn't have to be seeing that. This woman shouldn't have to be going through this. This fundamentally came about because of disagreement. Instead of someone disagreeing with Charlie Kirk in the way that they were invited to prove him wrong, to have a debate, you can like his debating technique or not. You can think his debating technique is somehow flawed, and it wasn't a fair debate. Either way, you turn up there and you use words. And the fact that we now live in a world where she's having to do this work, she never volunteered for this. She never wanted to be doing the heavy lifting now, simply because someone disagreed with Charlie Kirk. So, yeah, I understand what you mean. You want her to have the time to go home and be with her family. She's got the spirit that's doing something with it, that's taking this opportunity, but she shouldn't have to be doing this.
Yeah, Greg, what's your thoughts on Erica Kirk?
Well, I think she has done a lot of time at home. This is the first live interview or one-on-one interview she's done, and I'm quite sure, and she's talked about it, how much time she spent with her children. But I think this is a way for her to, you know, carry on the legacy, and it's probably very productive for her going through a really difficult time.
Yeah, so people deal with grief in very different ways, don't they? And I guess for her, this is obviously, hopefully, healing in some way. Do you know anything about rockets, boys? Because apparently SpaceX's Falcon 9 just took off from Florida. So this is carrying a new batch of Starlink satellites aimed at expanding global broadband coverage. Who do I go to on this? Who amongst you is our SpaceX expert? Connor?
Well, I love a rocket. Does that count? Does that make me qualified?
Yeah.
I just think this is, how cool is this? I mean, I'm always kind of taken aback by space travel and all the various attempts that Elon Musk makes, and very good attempts to do this. Starlink, of course, has become quite revolutionary in the service it provides to millions across the world. It's been absolutely fundamental in Ukraine in being able to drive various other drone connections and bring the fight to Russia. So I'm sure this will go down extremely well. But even just look at the picture, it still baffles me, Bev. How I don't understand how they do this.
So just to explain to people who don't know, so Starlink is this internet system. So it works via satellite, and it means that you can beam the internet into remote places around the world, Greg.
Yeah, it's, in a way, it could put the typical cellular phones or mobile phones not out of business, but it will replace that technology. Right. But it's also used, as Connor said, in a lot of military applications. And by the way, this is another great moment for Florida, like they needed another great one. It's the best managed state in America, and they have rockets launching, weekly from Cape Canaveral. It's fascinating to see. I'm quite glad to see Elon Musk returning to rockets, actually. I mean, he's been sidelined from the government a little bit and had a little bit of a falling out from Doge, and he does some good work there, but it's good to see him putting his kind of brain power, which he has a lot of, back into this and looking what different ways he's achieving.
There are some stories, Steve, that really draw the distinction between how amazing America can be and how rubbish we can be. I actually can't get very good internet signal in my house in Chiswick, and yet they have the ability to put that into the air and then provide internet to hurricane zones. Just reflect on the fact that we were a bit rubbish.
Yeah, we are, aren't we? I think in terms of like America managed to land a man on the moon in the 60s, and I think it was something like 2011 that the UK actually had our own launch into space. It's embarrassing, isn't it, to be fair? But, I mean, it's also money. I mean, yes, Elon Musk's size of brain, but also money. And this is one of the things that happens when you get people who've got that much money, they can have a space program. You end up getting a space program. If it weren't for this, we wouldn't have this technology. And quite a lot of some of the more advanced iPhones have the ability to connect with satellites. Imagine that. You don't even realise, but in the event of an emergency, you've got a satellite phone on you. So I look forward to the future of all this tech.
Yeah. Just while we wrap up, as we said, it's been a very difficult 24 hours for Donald Trump. But what did you make of his dancing on the stage, Greg? Like doing YMCA at the Business Forum today. I thought he would have come out and been a little bit downbeat, but he styled it out. Why? Well, I think it's classic President Trump. He's funny, he's entertaining. That's part of his whole story. And I think that was great to see it, even though, and by the way, yesterday was bad news for Republicans. I was hoping for a better outcome. I thought we had hope in New Jersey, but those are blue states and a very blue city. So that
There were no surprises yesterday. There really weren't. I think we lost a couple of counties that Trump won. So, there's some things on the margin that I was disappointed with. But President Trump has got bigger things to worry about. And he talked about the economy today. And that's what's the real issue for Americans.
Yeah. And Connor, you and I are in and out of the briefing room at the White House. And I think that the administration and everybody there will also style it out, don't you? I don't think there'll be a huge amount of reflection on the failure, really, for the Republicans. Gentlemen, we run out of time. Steve and Alan, thank you, my love, for staying up later. Connor Stringer, thank you so much from the Daily Telegraph. Please tell your newspapers to carry on doing such sterling work. We do need it. But don't forget that gbnews.com is the fastest growing news website in America at the moment. And GB News is the most watched news channel in the UK, beating Sky and BBC. Greg Swenson, you are a big part of that. We appreciate you, as they say here in America. And I appreciate you at home as well for staying with me. I will be back tomorrow night, midnight in the UK. See you then. Mwah.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. It's going to be another very mild day for the time of year. A drier day for many, particularly across western areas, and possibly even a few glimmers of sunshine. It's still fairly cloudy start out there, though. Much of that cloud will lift as the day goes on, but the sunshine and the cloud will come and go through the day, as will the rain too. There's a risk of showers across eastern areas first thing this morning, and then into this afternoon, a few showers possibly across parts of Wales, southwestern England, and moving into southern areas of Scotland too. But wherever you are, it's going to be another very mild day. We've still got those southerly winds, and in any sunshine we could reach 17 or 18 degrees. Into this evening then, it's still looking relatively dry for most of us. Quite a pleasant day to come for northern areas of Scotland, and it will stay relatively fine into this evening as well. Looking further west though, the cloud will roll in once again with a few showers around across western areas of Scotland, northwestern England as well, but Northern Ireland looking relatively dry. Further south across parts of the Midlands, a clear evening, but there is a risk of a few showers as we head into tonight, and the cloud's going to continue to come and go, but wherever you are, still staying very mild overnight tonight with those southerly winds dragging in plenty of mild air as well as the cloud. A few showers here and there. They should move through pretty quickly though if you do get caught with a shower on Thursday evening, and a relatively mild start to the day, a degree or so lower than this morning, but still pretty mild for the time of year. And it's going to be quite a fine day across eastern areas in particular on Friday once that cloud lifts through the morning. Still a few sunny spells across eastern areas of England, northern areas of Scotland as well, but looking further south and west, we've got the next batch of rain moving in. This could turn fairly heavy at times, as well as bringing some gustier winds and temperatures much closer to average in the low teens. Have a great day. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as